We've been covering the market for years, and this may be the worst reason to buy a comic book I've ever seen. Let's get into it. The 10 hottest comic books in the world, and number 10's cover sold for over $2.4 million at the list at number 10. Hit the subscribe button. We're here every week covering this rapidly moving marketplace. We have Batman, The Dark Knight Returns from 1986, Frank Miller.
And speaking of that iconic cover, remember we had all that controversy a few months ago on whether he was facing forward or facing backwards?
I totally forgot about that, Jem. And in this moment, I can't even remember what side I landed on. What about you?
What always helps me remember is that Sideshow statue that I reviewed a year or so ago. Check it out on the channel. And what's also funny about The Dark Knight Returns is they just reprinted the Absolute Edition. If you want to see my overhead shots of this, check it out on the channel. It's on the latest Omnibus haul.
Let us know what you think in the comments section below. Is Batman facing you, the reader, or are you facing his back? And let's take a look at why this book is selling. There is a April 17th deadline to send in your comics to CGC for the Frank Miller signing, and I think people are picking up their copies to get them submitted. The 9.4 sold for $265. That's the year high, an increase of 37%. The 9.6 sold for $473. That's also a year high. That's an increase of 71% when you compare it to the recent 12-month average.
The CGC 9.8 came in at $1,000, which is also the yearly high, but it didn't stop there. There is a second printing, and we've got a record-breaking sale. The 9.4 broke records selling for $130 in 2014. Just now selling for $150 for an increase of 15%.
Over this last week, there's a surprising amount of year-high recorded sales. Hit the subscribe button, but also do yourself a solid. And make sure to download the best comic app in existence. Key Collector Comics, code TOM101 unlocks a free 2-week subscription of an app that's like 98% free. And you can go and use it right now without the subscription, and you should. You can catalog your comics, learn about every key comic book worth knowing, and get suggested pricing and so much more.
Moving on to number 9 on the list, we can keep scratching our heads trying to figure out why this book and some of the others are making the Hot 10 every single week. But that's just it. They're hot. Conan #1 with a slew of sales once again.
Well, there is a Red Sonja movie coming out, and it's still surprising to me that we haven't seen the trailer yet. That debuted at San Diego, but to a small crowd, not to the world. And it's still slated to come out this year, and we got our first news about it since San Diego last year from lead actress Matilda Lutz.
She was at the red carpet premiere for her new movie Magpie, and this is what she had to say about Red Sonja. So what I can tell about Red Sonja is that the first ones and the comics were made with a very male-gazed orientation. This is a completely different story, and it's very woman-empowered, which I loved about the script.
Let us know what you think about that in the comment section below. And let's get into the sales about Conan 1.
I've already seen some chatter on the internet about it, but we want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Does that make you feel confident about this movie or no? We have some sales on Conan 1, though, the 5.0 selling for $278. That's an increase of 9%. The 6.5 is up 23% for a year high, coming in at $400. The 7.0 is up 19%. The 7.5 is up 5%. The 9.0 is also the year high, selling for $980, 28% above average. And then the 9.2, same thing, yearly high, selling for $1180 for an increase of 20%.
Conan's one of the most important Bronze Age keys, and this book has hit in the higher end of $8,000 for a 9.8, seeing it hover around $5,000 makes me feel like some books are just getting too low before people are going to buy them regardless of what's going to happen on the screen. Moving on to number 8 on the list, Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars issue number 8.
What was supposed to be the first appearance of the black alien suit that would later become Venom ended up just being an origin due to the release schedule. I wonder why the symbiotes are starting to make the list. We have a ton of sales and a ton of year highs again.
$130 for the 6.5, a 3% year high for the book. An 8.0 sold for $205, a 27% increase year high for this book. An 8.5 sold for $225 for an increase of 33%, and that's also a year high.
The 9.0 is up 10%. The 9.4 is up 16%, another year high coming in at $263. We've got a newsstand 9.4 selling for $330. That's an increase of 17%. The direct market 9.6 is up 16%. And then the newsstand 9.6 coming in at $450, 13% above average.
Whether it be Secret Wars in the distance on the big screen or just the fact that Spider-Man keys have been some of the safest forms of investments as it pertains to comic collectibles, this book is timeless and it's always going to be hot. But I'm curious why it's selling so well right now. Maybe it's because the con season is picking up.
Yeah, that could be. We have convention season coming up. There's no real reason why a lot of these copies should be selling right now. So interesting thought. Moving on to number 7, I know why this book is on the list. Uncanny X-Men 266, the first kind of appearance of Gambit.
And we have a 9.8 newsstand that sold this past week, and I'm very excited to get to that. But before I do, you got days to join the March Mystery Mail Call. We're hooking up every single member with a Venom foil Raph Grassetti and our very first Chrissy Zulo cover on Edge of Spider-Verse issue number 1, which is the first appearance of Weapon 8.
ComicTime101.com. The link is in the description. You have until midnight tonight.
There's a lot of excitement with Deadpool 3 in the horizon. We know mutants are going to be a mainstay long-term on the big screen. But I can't help but think Gambit ranking on the list may have more to do with the animation than the future of Gambit or the possibility of Channing Tatum being in Deadpool 3.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I feel like initially all the mutant books were spiking because of Deadpool 3 and the potential cameos, but after seeing the promotional material for X-Men 97, I feel like that's what's shining a light on these characters. A CGC 8.5 sold for $150, 6% above average. The 9.0 coming in at a yearly high, selling for $180. The 9.2 is up 16%. The 9.4 and the 9.6 are up 3%. And that newsstand 9.8 that Tom mentioned sold for $2,000. It's a year high, and it's 4% above that 12-month average.
Gambit was always my favorite character as a kid to watch in the animated series, and I think a lot of our community would agree with that and share that same opinion. Let me know your favorite mutant from the hit series in the comment section below. While you ponder this, we are seeing year highs for this book, and we haven't chatted about it in 6 months. And since then, there's been an increase of 167 9.8s added to the census and an increase of 249 9.6s. So yeah, supply is going up, but the demand is always there for Gambit.
That brings that total to 3,700 copies. Now, if you want a more scarce book, you got to look to number 6 on the list. From 1984, we've got Transformers issue 1.
Transformers issue 6 comes out this very week, and a lot of people are going to die. Autobots are going to die. Big things are going to happen, but no spoilers here. But we did get an announcement of new titles being introduced to the Skybound Energon universe.
The Energon universe is expanding with 2 new 5-issue miniseries. We've got Scarlet and we've got Destro. I can't help but think the Energon universe is what's responsible for the spike in this key issue.
Kelly Thompson's on Scarlet 1, Dan Waters on Destro 1, coming out June 5th, June 19th, respectively. And we have a newsstand 8.5 up 17%, a newsstand 9.0 up 17%, and a newsy 9.2 up 14%.
The direct market 9.4 is up 4%. The newsstand 9.4 sold for $300. That's 8% above average. The 9.6 is up 5%, and the 9.8 sold for $1,500 for an increase of 6%.
There are only 669 9.8s of Transformers 1 on the census, and that's a big increase in the last year. But this book has been hovering around that $1,500 marker for quite a while, at least over the last 12 months. Now looking at number 5 on the list, one of the most classic modern age keys of all time, New Mutants 87. From 1990, the first appearance of Cable with a Rob Liefeld cover.
And I'm from a time where this was the key issue to own. It wasn't New Mutants 98. It was the first appearance of Cable. Will we see him in the X-Men 97 animated series? And will Josh Brolin reprise his role as Cable for Deadpool and Wolverine?
This book landed on the trending list weeks ago, and our LCS owner went on the mic and said that this was too cheap for this key book and it was undervalued. And he doesn't say that very often about trending books. Then, weeks later, it lands on the Hot 10. Rob Liefeld's going to Florida, yes, and a lot of people are getting ready for those signings. But this book is one that people want always. It's a timeless key comic book. And then when you couple the fact that we have Josh Brolin not saying he's not in Deadpool 3, It's a perfect storm.
Another book that made the list because of the sheer amount of sales. The 7.5 is up 13%, the 8.0, 24%, the 9.0 is up 12%. All of these are double-digit percentage increases. The 9.2 is up 10%, the 9.4 is up 17%, the 9.6 came in at $250. That's 21% above. And then we've got some newsstands and second printings.
The newsstand 9.6 hit $300, which, if you're patient, that's what people are paying for 9.8s on the low. That's an increase of 2%. And the second printing 9.8, which is a fantastic gold cover, kind of yellowish cover, but I always thought this was a really attractive second printing that doesn't sell for very much. You can get one for $94, and that's an increase of 13%. You could have grabbed this 9.8 second printing, first appearance of Cable, Rob Liefeld cover for like $60 for quite a while.
Moving on to number 4 on the list, I feel like this has less reason to be here than Conan 1. At least we have that Red Sonja movie coming on, but not much going on in the Star Wars universe, but yet this book seems to make the list every single week. The original Star Wars issue 1.
This is another one of those books that I imagine people are buying to prepare for convention season. You know, the book may go up this year, and it's at a low almost in every single grade. And dealers like to have Star Wars 1 in any grade on their walls because there's just a crazy quantity of copies selling despite any mainstream news. The 6.0 is up 34%, the 7.0 and the 8.5 are up 9%, the 9.0 is up 8%, the 9.4 is up 7%. You can get a 9.6 for $1,000, an increase of 7% on one of the biggest books of all time.
It's crazy to think that the 9.8 reached heights of $9,600, but those were crazy times that we were living in. The most recent sale puts it at $3,975, which is 5% above his 12-month average.
We do make a lot of exclusives, but I've never made Star Wars variants. So I said in 2024 that was going to be a big change we were making. And since the start of the year, we've released like 6 to 7 of them. And we went back to the OG Rebels crew, and we have Ahsoka covers, we have Hera covers, we have Ezra covers, and you know we got Thrawn in the distance and so much more. Look at these sets we took to press Star Wars as well as Star Wars Darth Vader. You can collect them all, and the print runs were cut down. So all the trade dresses are 1,500 printed, which is about half of what it is typically.
Man, you guys got more going on with Star Wars than Star Wars does.
I'm starting to think that could be true, Jem. Support this show, and let's talk about New Mutants 98. You already foreshadowed it. You knew that this was going to be on the list, damn it. It's the only Marvel movie coming out this year.
This book is going to be on the list every single week until the movie comes out, and depending on how the movie goes, maybe even weeks after. The 7.5 sold for $300. That's 18% up. The 9.0 is up 12%. The newsstand 9.0 sold for $400 for an increase of 4%. Direct market 9.2 is up 3%. The 9.4 is up 15%. And then the newsstand 9.4 sold for $575 for an increase of 17%.
I can't help but think that the Rob Liefeld signing at CGC is causing a crazy amount of sales this week because the 9.6 is up 15% on the high end, but 10 different copies outsold the recent 12-month average at a 9.6 in the last 7 days. That's more than one 9.6 sale every day since we covered this book last. And it didn't stop there. The direct 9.8 is up 1% despite the growing census count number for this book in that grade, selling for $1,427.
And then we've got the newsstand CGC 9.8 selling for $2,800. That's 5% above its average, and it's to be expected for this book. It's one of the hottest in the world.
Which brings us to number 2 on the list with the worst reason to buy a comic book based off of spec that I have ever seen. Uncanny XMen 130, the first appearance of Dazzler. You knew it was going to be here, but is this the reason why?
It's all about the friendship necklace poster with the little Wolverine and the little Deadpool logo. People are correlating that with Taylor Swift fans.
Taylor Swift fans make bracelets to celebrate their fandom for Taylor Swift, and then they go and trade them at concerts. This is a necklace on a poster, so people wear the necklace. People wear bracelets. Taylor Swift fans make bracelets. You see where I'm going here?
It's feeling like Charlie Day trying to connect the dots. Where is Pepe Sylvia? But honestly, I think this book is going to make the list every single week until we get confirmation whether or not she's going to be in this movie.
Don't buy this book because you saw that poster. That is some of the flimsiest spec I've ever heard, and it's like legitimately happening. People saw that poster and they're like, this could mean Taylor Swift is in the movie. She could be Dazzler. seems a little absurd. Watch me be wrong, guys. All right. Newsstand 7.5 up 4%. 8.0 in a newsie up 12%. The newsstand 8.5 is up 18%. And the newsstand 9.0 is up 39%. There's a lot of other sales in lower grades that we can discuss. Just go check out Key Collector. We have more sales to report on.
The 9.4 up 14%. The 9.6 is up 21%. The 9.8 just sold for $1,803 for an increase of 12%.
Did I just offend you? Did you buy this book because of that poster? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Hit the subscribe button while you're down here. I may piss you off in the future. Hit the like button. We're trying to serve all the different algorithm gods. Do it for Thor. And do it for number one on the list. The number one hottest book in the world is another Frank Miller book. Could it be because of the Frank Miller signing? Is CGC controlling the pricing on all the collectibles? It's a conversation for another day. We have Wolverine number one.
This book has made number one on the list countless times since the Deadpool 3 news, since the Hugh Jackman announcement. But yeah, coupled with the Frank Miller signing, I wouldn't be surprised if it was number one next week as well. The newsstand 6.5 up 6%. The 8.5 is up 11%. The 9.0 is up 17%. The newsstand 9.0 sold for $188, 17% above average.
I'm going to skip to the higher graded comics, and then I'm going to ask you a very important question, Jem. The 9.6 sold for $345, and 5 different copies outsold the 12-month average in the last week for an increase of 31%. The newsstand 9.6 sold for $450. That's an increase of 28%. And the 9.8, which the highest in the past week, sold for $768 for an increase of 15%, had 9 different copies outsell that 12-month average. Hot damn. Here's the question, Jem. You just said that you wouldn't be surprised if this book landed on the Hot 10 next week. Is there anything that would surprise you with this book being on the 10 list next week?
I would be shocked if we didn't see New Mutants 98, Wolverine 1, and Uncanny X-Men 130 on next week's Hot 10.
What do you think in the comment section below, fam? Come follow us on Instagram. We've been putting out a bunch of new content on there, vlog footage, etc. Jem, what do you got cooking on your channel?
Been doing a lot of omnibus hauls and reviews and checking out some of the weekly comics. I should have that Black Panther issue 2 review up now, so go check that out.
We're officially releasing so many comic books that I can't tell you on camera all of them. There's just too many, and the whole video would be a plug. But I will tell you, just join the newsletter on comictom101.com, or you can just go straight to the store, comictom101.store. There's links everywhere to be able to find it. And in this past week, we've teamed up with In-Hyuk Lee on Spectacular Spider-Man #1, super low print Marvel book that we priced super cheap. We also had the privilege to release Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees issue #1, the foil low print variant. There's Star Wars books going up as mentioned. Crashdown is going up every single week. So if you are looking to get comic books from us, support the show, go to the sites, or just sign up to our newsletter. We'll keep you updated. And as always,
geek responsibly. And don't buy that book because of the necklace. And stay minty fresh.
Enough said.